first of all, welcome. Short about Fast Track. Accelerator from Malmö. We've done it for a couple of years, 6 years now. We do a program for 3 months from March to May every year. Why Fast Track Malmö? We try to give great advice, and if we don't have any advice, we ask our community of VCs like Carlo and other founders and experts to give you that. So it's for companies who are looking to raise a seed round next year. That is the companies we look for. We invest 50k euros in every team, and you kind of get 2 co-founders in the spring, and me and Melinda, and so looking forward to see you here maybe. Please follow us LinkedIn, Twitter, on YouTube, and now about Accel. Carlo, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me, guys. Great to be here.
Let's start off with can you tell us a little bit about your fund and what your role is in there?
Of course, yeah. So Accel is a global venture platform. We started in the Valley around 40 years ago, and we have global operations now in the US and North America, in Europe and Israel, and in India. So the way in which we've been working is that there are teams of people that are very ambitious and very hungry, and we want to make sure we back the best of them. We really work across any category of the technology sector. So we're very horizontal in nature. We have done a lot in SaaS, in consumer, in cybersecurity, in fintech, in insurance, and I would say what really gives it the superpower is a platform that has been built throughout 40 years with a global angle. And on top of that, we also have local offices in Palo Alto, in London, and in Bangalore, which means that whenever you work with an entrepreneur, you have the benefit of a global platform. Obviously, if you need access to the US market and you're a European investment, we can certainly help. And same thing, when it comes to Asian ambitions. But when it comes to day to day, we like to be very close to entrepreneurs that we work with. So, for example, out of London, where I'm based together with my team, we cover pretty much anything that has to do with Europe and Israel. And so we really try to back the best team as early as we can and build big businesses globally. So I would say our motto is really, to try and help founders build category-defining businesses. And category-defining business is not a word by itself. Is if I look at the portfolio that we're fortunate enough to work with, we work with the companies like Dropbox and Spotify and Slack, and the guys at Facebook in the US, and here in Europe, and maybe specifically in the Nordics. We work with Supercell, with Rovio, with ForgeRock, with Cree, Anyfin. We have Chainalysis in Denmark, recently Skynavis, Axie Infinity. So I would say we are really looking for those entrepreneurs that want to conquer or create a new category, and where we think we can be of support to them. My role, is to work with the early stage entrepreneurs across Europe with a specific angle on the Nordic market, which, as you can see, I'm not, and as you can hear, I'm definitely not from there. But I've been working there for almost the last 5 years, and every time I go there, the ambition and the level of innovation that comes out of the countries, albeit the population is not as big, it's incredible. So we continue to be excited about spending time there, both virtually like now and obviously in person.
Thank you. And so which stages do you invest in? So from what kind of tickets are you doing? So yeah.
So I would say we do anything that goes from, maybe a couple of $1 million up to $250 million. We are a very very broad organization in terms of capital. So we have some early stage funds that we use to back companies between seed and later stages. And then we also have some later stage vehicles that help companies in the growth phase of their journey. I would say, the reality is that, and I think there's going to be one of the points we're going to discuss in our general VC trends. The reality is that it's very difficult to say which stage you invest, because as we all see, I mean, sometimes you have a Series A, you know, $100 million, that's a Series A of $5 million. I would say whenever it makes sense for us to help scale the business, that's when we invest. However, we also, you know, make investments, you know, earlier than that. If you think about anything in Sweden, when we invested, the business was pre-launch. So, I mean, doesn't necessarily need to be, you know, capital to fuel the growth. It can be, but you know, it's all around, you know, how good the founding team is and what is the, you know, chemistry we have, and you know how big the opportunity they have ahead of them.
I love what when you said that, like, we're looking for category winners, right?
Yes, defining. They can be winners if it's late, like, right. So you can be winners if it's later stage, but in general, like, it has to be a category defining idea. Like, you know, you're like, you come to me and say, I'm Nino, you know, I have this idea and I want to revolutionize the way in which groceries are delivered, right?
Yeah.
And that's much different than, you know, I want to improve, you know, whatever is out there.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's dig into your mental model. I'm coming to you, I say, like, I have this, like, future problem that I'm the best in the world to solve. It's like, what do you look for?
So first of all, like, you know, depends on, you know, what is your background, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, and you know, you clearly, you know, if you come and you've been a, you know, sound engineer at you know, at you know, some of the largest, you know, music producing company for like many years, and you're like, hey, I actually have an idea to make a SaaS product for sound engineers that disrupts, you know, the way in which, you know, music or movies are recorded. I mean, you work at Sony maybe for like 10 years, you know, it's pretty credible, right? So even if maybe it's an idea, I can easily, you know, either call experts that are in the category, or, you know, simply, you know, call people that you work with, which is actually something very important for us. So when it's very early at the stage of Nino coming to me and asking me, hey, you know, I have this idea, are you guys interested? If you have a good network of people around you that you work with, because think about it, like, put yourself in our shoes, right? So there are many talented teams around the world with many great ideas. How do you make sure, you know, you make the most, you know, I would say the best partnership work? You want to reference those people, reference the idea, and this can happen obviously, you know, if there's a network. Now, you do also have exceptions where, you know, if I think about the founder of Hopin, Giovanni, I mean, Johnny is a, you know, a very young entrepreneur, and, you know, that probably one of those meetings, you know, where you meet the founder and the founder is just incredible, and, you know, this is it. I mean, you see that there's a genius idea coming out of his mind.
Yeah. Okay. Stop it, Carlo. What is that like? That's the first time. Like, we usually talk about first-time founders, second-time founders, if they have the right kind of right background. But many companies are started by first-time founders. We have you've invested in Facebook, for example, and Hopin as well. So how do you just know? How do you know this person is going to build this and is going to be like, it's going to be a unicorn? What can you see in those eyes, or what is? Have you seen any kind of red thread?
I mean, I think, you know, if I think about the founders that we back, even if they're experienced, I think, you know, it's, especially when you're young, it's incredible clarity of thoughts around the problem of a market, right? So think about, you know, 20 years old yourself. When you were 20 years old, when I was 20 years old, I could not give an intelligent answer to, you know, to a question, how do you are going to develop a platform for, you know, live streaming, right? And you're already at this age, you see like incredible thoughtfulness. I mean, Johnny is an incredible entrepreneur. So I don't know how many Johnnies, you know, can be born in a decade. But in general, what we see is, you know, is incredible character of thoughts, people that have studied the industry in and out, like they know everything about it, much more than us, of course. And already when you find somebody that young, that knows everything about the industry, that has outsmarted us in any possible way, you know, that's pretty impressive. And, you know, luckily I also work, you know, with obviously with a team of, you know, partners that have been, you know, investing in technology for like 30 years. So clearly, you know, they have an incredible pattern recognition. And, you know, I think once we connect the dots, you know, then I would say it becomes an obvious decision, you know, but it does help, you know, at least to find out the best entrepreneurs.
Yeah, thanks for that answer. Great answer. Really inspiring for the entrepreneurs in the room here. So, okay, what has reason? Okay, I have a question from Justin from Känslolabbet. It's a Swedish the lab of feelings. So what made us, and this is a feeling question. So what has recently made you think, oh, this is something I don't want to miss out on? Sector maybe, or a company?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very, a topical question. I think, we backed an incredible business called Chainalysis in 2018. Because, it's I would say, it's a company around, crypto compliance. It's very large business with some incredible Danish entrepreneurs. There was an investment made in 2018, and then really saw the blockchain and the crypto world developing, and we just like the more we research every day, something new came up. And as any sector that is here to stay, it starts with some skepticism and some doubts and other things. And then we invested after a few years in Sorare, which is obviously a great success story around NFTs. And I think now also the most recent investment we have done in Tenderly, which is actually a Serbian business. I don't know if you were aware, but they're based in Belgrade. They are all Serbian team, and they offer just an analytics tool for smart contracts on Ethereum. And then most recently we backed the guys at Sky Mavis in Norway, actually. It's Axie Infinity is the main coin. All of this to say that I would say this the last couple of years we started looking at this trend. We watched from the sidelines for a bit, and then we was like, right, I cannot miss this, because this is gonna be the future of it's not necessarily about money. It's about gaming. It's about content creation. It's about engaging with with people from all over the world. So that's really, like I was saying, anything that is out crypto, and more specific around gaming and collectibles and analytics is something that really make us say, wow, okay, we have to really work hard to understand this, because it's quite complex, as you know.
Yeah, and okay, a little bit on that topic. How much research do you put in the firm in like checking out all this like new technologies, inflections, laws that are driven like technology? Do you have like a good thesis in all these like areas, and then you try to find these founders, or they come to you?
Certainly.
Yeah,
I think how we found the founders is twofold. So what within Accel, the way in which we work globally, as a European, US, and Indian team, we work around what we call prepare mind. Prepare mind is a sector deep dive. Just to make things straightforward, is pretty much we there are like 6 or 7 themes each year that we explore very in depth. And I would say these deep dives come in 2 forms. Sometimes if again put yourself in my shoes, you see tomorrow 25 companies all in security for SaaS application. What does that mean? That means something is happening in this category. What does that mean? It means that I have to study the category, come up with a thesis, and try to back the best team. The other way around can be one day, let's say Melinda is a very is a corporate executive, a large company. You talk to Melinda and say, hey, I really think this is going to be the future of communication, and maybe there are no companies there, but still, what do? You're going to do your research, and then whenever the right thing comes along, you invest. So we really have 2 ways of looking at teams. Depends on the activity in the market or what we hear from the network we have, and then we work hard on building our thesis. Speaking with experts, speaking with businesses, and then we have a blueprint where then we say, hey, Nino came with this idea, is exactly what I'm looking for. The team is great. I think we should back them. So that's a bit of the process for us.
Oh, thanks for that. Okay, can I? So I'm in one of your spaces that you're looking at. Cold intros, do they work, or how many of your investments will come from a cold intro? Do you know that? Do you have that stats, or your thoughts about it?
We don't have a stats on cold intro, frankly, But what I can tell you is the following. So if you are, going back to the previous example, let's say, you and I are looking together at, B2B payments, okay? And we're a team, and you and I work on the same thing. So, if I receive a cold email from a founder offering, a solution in B2B payments, which is, clear, to the point, and hey, this is my background, this is why I think I'm the right person for doing this is my idea, this is the competitors, this is how I'm different, and you can do this in 10 lines on an email, right? You don't,
yeah, three bullets, like this is our month,
this and this, and then whatever. Some founders have like some materials already, like short material. I mean, if that is exactly the category I'm looking at, I'm definitely gonna engage. Why? Because it's just relevant. We're spending time and it makes sense. Obviously, if we receive like a cold intro for something that is completely out of scope, we would say, hey, sorry, this is not something we are prioritizing at the moment, because in reality is that there are no bad sectors. There are more sectors that you haven't either spent time on or you're missing out on, and maybe one day we're going to return. So doesn't mean that something is not for us today, it's not going to be for us in the future. But at the same time, we also are respectful of entrepreneurs, and we're not going to take 30 minutes of your time unless it's something that at least we think we can back.
Yeah, I get these questions a lot. Like, should I send a cold intro? Yeah, but only if you're interested. Like, and to be interested, if you're interested, you're going to be interesting. So do something like a little bit personal first, and really understand who you're talking to, and give them like 3 bullets, and show your traction that is relevant, that you understand how this works, right? And if Carlo doesn't open that email, he's not doing his job. But I know if he sees 25% month-to-month growth in an area that he's looking at, you have to check it out. Like, and I think cold interest works if they're done right. Yeah. Okay, I have a question here from Johan from Schinner. It's about expectations from VCs on returns. On returns changing when early rounds and valuation keep on going up and growing.
We don't really invest with a strategy of, hey, we're going to hold this asset. First of all, we don't have assets. We have teams, and we have entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So we are going to hold this asset for 5 years, and then we're going to make 5x, and then we're going to sell it. So this is not how we work, and some financial firms do, which means that frankly, our base case is the company becomes huge. If the base case, it cannot be the company becomes huge, probably is not for us. It's as simple as that, right? And there are many businesses that you have great entrepreneurs that are bootstrapped, and they're going to have incredible returns for themselves, for their families. But obviously, we are a fairly ambitious investor, and a large institution. So anytime we look at an opportunity, you never see, hey, we think this can be a 5x a return in 5 years. You see, hey, we think this company has the potential to change the way in which cloud security is done because this team is X. So yes, of course, if you have trillions and trillions in the market, and part of that goes to private capital, part of that goes to venture capital, then obviously enterprise is high. Exit price has to be high for somebody to get a return. But you'll find, like in this industry, if you were actually to think about returns in terms of enterprise and exit price, sometimes you'll be like confused on how this thing can work at scale. But that's a question that nobody has an answer to today, because nobody knows how the world is going to evolve the next 5 years. Everybody's waiting for a crash and all this, but I don't know. I think it's still very difficult to predict.
How is the interest in deep tech startups? Any specific areas within deep tech from Rodrigo from Sony? You know him a bit as well.
So deep tech, just want to clarify, we don't really look at hardware these days. I mean, it's not a sector we're prioritizing. So let's focus maybe on deep tech when it comes to software. I think, anything that has to do with application of machine learning in the data and video space today are something we're really looking at. So if I think about the next generation of how to create the content for businesses or consumers using deep learning algorithms, this is quite interesting. Or try to understand what are the infrastructure needs of running multiple deep learning algorithms in parallel and be cost efficient and performance savvy. That's interesting. So I would say both on the how to use deep learning for create content, and this can be video, this can be a movie, this can be a text, whatever you want to call it. But on the other side, also to understand what's the next generation of, so what do you need in terms of infrastructure to make sure the deep learning use cases can actually happen, right? I think about GPU optimization. I think about, how to coordinate, CPU consumption, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, that's, if I think about deep tech, those are the two things I think, personally I'm most excited about.
Question about proving product market fit in your home market. So to prove viability of a global product at seed stage, should you become like, this is a question actually. So should we become number one in our home market, or should we prove that we can scale to other countries before trying to like raise capital? From Eric and Saga Sleep.
So I think the question is, so in general, you should make sure your idea works in your own market, right?
Yeah.
But again, it also depends, what kind of idea we're talking about. Because, if you think about, if you build, so if you're building in a category that is really competitive and your idea, yes, is differentiated, but, it's about a lot about execution, how we execute. Well, frankly, I mean, maybe, if you're a Swedish business and you're, building a CRM and, from day one, you're starting in the US and the US abstractions, I'm pretty sure that, the product market fit there exists because it's a well-known category. There are categories that are, very crowded and you can always put an angle to it, but then ultimately buyers will have the same budget anyway. Whilst obviously, if you are building something that is, completely, not done by anybody, of course, I mean, you should definitely prove that this works. Also because maybe, and this can be of help for maybe some early stage, founders that are building, especially in, in B2B software, and are looking to get a fundraise from a venture capital investor. What is important for us is also have, to the early point, the references, right? So let's say you're building a next way, the next generation on how you increase your productivity, as a B2B enterprise software. I mean, if you already have, a few, I would say, users, somebody that has done a POC with you, that is much more valuable than you trying maybe to sell in the US and needing capital for that, because I don't know if the product works. So I would say, it's more of a logical step, and depending on the category.
So you've proven something in maybe in Sweden, like 9 million people. You understand this is like, maybe depending on the category, it's quite hard to build a unicorn in Sweden. And then we have the Nordics, 20 million people. That could be hard as well. And then we see like countries like France, like you can build a unicorn within France or in Russia or other big countries. But many times in the Nordics, we kind of encourage people, you have to try out other markets as well, and just to show that you have that global ambition. And that is for me, it's also showing that you're thinking globally if you're doing pilots and tests outside of Sweden, because otherwise, many funds don't get excited if you only do things in Sweden.
Yeah, but I mean, because it can also be, there can also be a solution where everybody there. And then, you maybe have a good network, and maybe you work for Ericsson, for some time, and, the other enterprise software companies, clearly, if you're going to the US as the next market, and we are investing in a category that, requires a go-to-market effort and, marketing, et cetera, we want to see, the US buyers be interested in that, for example. Like different markets, although technology is very global, different markets have a different nuances. So again, if you put it in the perspective of us as investors, we want to back one company per category. So we don't really invest in competitors, which means that, before working with somebody, we really want to make sure, these are not going to be our investments in, B2B automation for CRM. This is going to be our investments in, delivery, and this is going to be investment, et cetera, et cetera. So that's also how we see it. The world is not true for everybody, but that's how we do it.
Yeah, you are a bit privileged because you're one of the best VC funds around, and I would love to have an investment from Accel if I was running something in a category. But how do you see the competitive landscape, even for you, out there? I've heard there's a lot of funds coming in from the States, doing the Nordics, doing Europe. What is happening out there? Is it like, are deals getting closed quicker, and how have you adapted to this new landscape?
Yes, I think there are two trends, right? So there is a trend of, there's actually, most of it actually is COVID related, in my opinion, in terms of capital allocation, right? So you have much more capital in the market because there's been, and there still is, a lot of liquidity being injected. That obviously flows into private capital. So more people raising funds and more capital available for founders. I mean, think about it. Probably is the best time to become a tech founder. Is last year, today. It is very good. But I mean, the reality is that you and I now are doing this over Zoom, and so does everybody. And Melinda might not be here, and Hasse maybe is not here, but still, we have the same access to the people. We send an email. Hey, do you want to chat? And in this kind of world, especially in the first part of COVID, it does become difficult to compete, because then you also don't need to meet the team in person. You don't get the feeling for the people. You don't really understand the office. I know it's gonna sound a bit cliche, but me and my partners and my colleagues, we go and we like to meet the team. If I didn't meet you in person, probably would not be here, right? So exactly. There is a personal component that is very important, and if you take that away, everybody from all over the world, can obviously. And if I call you tomorrow, and say, hey, I'll give you, this kind of money at this price, and the process is going to be 2 days, and maybe you say yes, right? So the reality is that yes, there are many players coming in the market. I think we're all competing on at the same level. Obviously, we are, as you said, we are privileged to have worked with founders for 40 years. So we have a network of founders, of experts that we can help our portfolio companies or prospective portfolio companies with. But it is getting tough. When you said about cold emails, I cold emails founder all the time. Like, people think we don't cold emails people. We do it all the times.
It's hard work. Nobody understands that. Like, you don't get anything for free, right?
And no, like, you cold email founders, and like, I'm never gonna send an email. Hi, I'm Carlo from Accel. Do you want to chat? No, that's never gonna work. And maybe it works like 1 out of 100 times. So it's gonna be, hey, I'm sorry for emailing out of the blue. This is my name. This is what I do. This is why I think your category is interesting. I think we should connect. And I actually write down, that, and I saw you were building something in enterprise software. We invest in this company. I think this is interesting because X, Y, Z. That's the only way.
I love it. Even the best VCs are great at writing cold emails. You're interested in them. That's why
you gotta do it. It's but also think about it, right? So it's also back to the point of, we like to. So A, we don't want to waste anybody's time. We're respectful of people's time, first of all, and B, we, especially when you do outbound, what you're doing, you are you have a sector that you like, or a category interesting, or a type of founder you want to work with, and you try to understand what is that right founder. And so it's really important also, on our side, in a competitive market, to make sure, there's a reason why we want to spend time with people.
Yeah, there's a lot of signals going on, I think. Whatever you do, I was in this discussion, and we're running a Fast Track Malmö, and we try to we are entrepreneurs ourselves, and we try to make the process as easy as possible to apply to a program. That says a lot on how we're going to work together in the future. And I think all the signals you're giving away, that just tells you about the future relationship, on how it is to work with that people, and investing in somebody is like investing in a 7-year marriage, or a 10-year relationship.
Yeah, it's more 10 years actually, if you think about
10-year relationship, and it has to be right. So I appreciate that answer, Carlo. So you do pre-seeds, right? So what kind of valuations do you see in pre-seeds and seed deals right now?
If I think about if I'm raising capital, again, if I put myself in the shoe of an entrepreneur, I would just honestly look at how much money I need. I need whatever, $10 million. Pre-seed is a bit big. Okay, yeah. Sorry. I'm getting inflated myself. But that's if you need I need like $5 million or $4 million, $3 million, whatever the number is. And I am 2 co-founders. We own 100% of the business. Well, at this stage, we're willing to give away 25% for that. So it's as simple as that. It's around ownership of how much ownership you can give away. and then you work out the valuation around it. Why? Because I mean, another thing that I think it's helpful to point out. Like think about you do a pre-seed and or a seed. I don't because pre-seed is difficult to find. Let's call it seed. Like,
Seed,
seed of $4 million. Okay, do a seed of $4 million, and you're willing to give away like only like whatever 9% of the company. I mean, sure, maybe you can. Now it depends on how much help you need from the other party. Now, convinced it is like in our experience, like VCs usually would take 10 to 20% of your round, depending on stages. And obviously, if you already own, the two of you own 100% of the business, I think it's not crazy maybe to give away 20% of the business and get somebody that is really invested in you succeeding, versus somebody that says, oh, you know what, I own 4% of this business, 5% of this business. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, fine. Because obviously, at the end of the day, there are some investors that maybe want to put a toehold, and that is fine. But in general, you also want the other party to be committed. So I would always looking into what is my current ownership structure, how much percentage I own at this round, and how much I'm willing to give away, and what is the capital that I need to achieve my milestone. I think that's the most that's the healthiest way that you can look at it. And clearly, it's a negotiation. So if that's what you want, and that's your price is reasonable, and you don't have many offers, but you need the capital, you optimize for the right partner, which doesn't mean you take the money of everybody or right partners. But obviously, if you have 50 people interested, of course, that's a baseline that and then obviously, that can only go up.
Yeah, we asked, like, we did this survey. I don't know if you were part of it. I think you were maybe, but we asked like the dilution in rounds, like the optimal ownership before a seed round. So we asked like 25 of our favorite VCs in Europe, and we had like an optimal would be 81%. Is that true? We need to do it again.
So you mean, so after the pre-seed,
pre-seed, going into a seed round, is 81% something that is good?
Yes, I think so. I think, again, it depends on what pre-seed is. Maybe, if you are getting money only from angels, it does sound like a lot to me. If you are only getting like angel money, like small checks, but it does depend, on the circumstances.
Okay.
Like, if you have to get something, off the ground, and it's a really like, idea that is really different from anything else, and you're very young. I mean, it might be difficult, to find somebody that is ready to put that much capital. I would say probably 85%, 81%. I think it's fine. Like I don't think it's a significant difference. Then you look at the seed round. If you look at the market, maybe like Israel, you will look at 25% dilution at that round. In Europe, is more around 20. In Israel, also, this pre-seed is not really a thing. They're just larger seed rounds. So I will look at Carlo's math. I think 81% is fine. 82%.
Okay, we will have to do it again, so we have some fresh data to give away to founders.
We have a really interesting question from the chat asking about, so we know that Accel is really active in the Asian market, in the European market, and in North America. But how about the African market? How does Accel look at the African market, or do you see any trends or changes for that market?
That's a great question. I think there is the market where now we are spending a lot of time on thinking on how to tackle it, because to the point that Nino made earlier, I mean, it's a huge market. There are some great businesses already, and there are also other businesses or models that we see in Europe can work also very well there, if they're not there already. So the short answer, Melinda, is that we are learning about it, and we are, to the earlier point, want to be prepared when we find the right team and the right opportunity to back. Historically, it hasn't been our focus, but hopefully in the future it will be.
Maybe let's also touch on future trends for 2022. Is there anything specific that you see, or like what trends do you think will continue during next year?
I think so in terms of trends, the three major, which are, I think, the continuation of what we've seen already in 2021. I personally don't see anything changing. It's gonna be, you're just gonna have more capital in the market. So everything we just discussed is gonna get, even more, competitive and I would say prevalent. And then you have the investors are going to get earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier. Just a design by design, they will. Now, I don't know what that means in 10 years terms of returns, but what I know is that I really feel it today, and I think it's going to continue definitely next year. And then the third trend is that even more than before, you're going to have great companies coming from any place in the world because of what just discussed. Zoom, proliferation of capital. We were lucky to work with UiPath and Miro. UiPath is based in Bucharest. We'll start in Bucharest in Romania. Miro was based in Perm, in Russia. I mean, I think there are going to be just more companies coming out on this kind of global footprint versus the usual Palo Alto and London and also Berlin. In terms of trends, I think four are especially interesting. I think crypto is going to continue to be a trend that investors have to understand how to work with, because as we mentioned before, it's complex, it's not straightforward. So anything that is around crypto for gaming, or on the NFT front, or on the analytics, I think it's going to be quite intriguing. And then embedded insurance and finance. So anything how to embed your finance and insurance product within your B2C consumer facing or B2B business facing products. Anything around e-commerce. So e-commerce tools, as you guys see, anything to manage your warehouse. If I'm a Shopify merchant, or manage my payments, I think it's going to be quite interesting. There are few in the Nordics, there are many in the US, and there are a lot in Europe too. And then video, actually, I think is going to continue to be quite exciting. I mean, you and I are talking over video, and consumption is increasing, and people want to spend more time, and AI is helping to create more videos. So if I were to pick like 4 sectors that I think is going to keep growing and growing, are probably crypto, embedded finance, insurance, anything around e-commerce, and also video. How is it going to look like in the next 2 years or so?
Good to stop here. I think I'm super grateful, Carlo, that you came to the show. And
no, thank you guys. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Love having you here, and I love your thoughts on what you're trying to build over there at Accel, and how you think about the early stage of startups and founders, but also what's going on and the trends. And thank everybody who came, and hope you liked the organic vibe we had here today with Carlo. I don't know, it's really hard to take all these questions, but you can follow Accel on their channels, but also Carlo is out there and happy to take cold emails if you're relevant. So keep on investing, and see you hopefully soon in Malmö, Carlo.
Thank you very much, guys. Carlo. Thank you for organizing. Thank you for attending, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.